In the grand halls of Blackthorn Manor, where chandeliers gleamed like ghostly stars and velvet curtains hung heavy with age, an invitation went out, a mysterious summons to a banquet. The letter arrived in black envelopes, each bearing a silver seal stamped with a raven, the family crest of the infamous Duke Voss. Rumors had swirled around the Voss family for centuries. Some said they were cursed, while others whispered of dark rituals held deep in the manor's dungeons. But none of these whispers were enough to deter the chosen guests, who saw the invitation as a chance for a lavish night of decadence and fine dining. Each guest was of society's upper crust, famous actors, influential politicians, wealthy aristocrats. For some, the allure of Blackthorn was a forbidden thrill. For others, it was a chance to taste luxury that bordered on the sublime. Each of them arrived in grand carriages, dressed in their finest evening wear, with polished shoes and jewels that glittered under the moonlight. As they stepped through the doors, they were greeted by the Duke himself, a tall, pale man with piercing gray eyes and a smile that sent a shiver down their spines. "Welcome," he said, his voice smooth and commanding. "Tonight, you shall dine in ways you have never dreamed." The guests took their places around a massive table adorned with a blood-red tablecloth, candelabras dripping with wax and crystal goblets filled with a dark, fragrant wine. The table itself seemed to stretch endlessly, its length hidden by shadows that pooled at the far end. Servants, dressed in black with expressionless faces, stood by each guest chair, ready to attend to their every need. As they settled in, a man seated beside Lady Beatrice, a widowed countess, whispered, "They say no one's ever seen the Duke eat." Lady Beatrice gave him a knowing smile, feeling a rush of excitement. Strange rumors were nothing new in her world, but tonight had an edge she couldn't quite place. When all were seated, the Duke raised his glass. "To life," he said, and his voice echoed in the hall. "To life," the guests echoed, though a few felt a prickling unease. The first course arrived, a delicate soup, rich and fragrant, with spices unfamiliar to any of them. As they tasted it, a hush fell over the table. Each spoonful was an exquisite symphony of flavors, the taste somehow evoking memories, half-forgotten scenes from childhood, scents of wildflowers and warm hearths. It was delicious, intoxicating even. As they ate, some guests closed their eyes, lost in a reverie of flavors they could scarcely describe. The second course was a platter of roasted meats, perfectly cooked, the juices glistening in the candlelight. The smell was irresistible, and the guests eagerly dug in, each bite filling them with a sense of satisfaction and pleasure that bordered on euphoric. But as they ate, a strange feeling crept over them, a heaviness, a sense that something was off. They exchanged uneasy glances, but their hunger kept them rooted to their seats. With each course that followed, the food grew stranger. Small, delicate pastries filled with a savory filling that none could quite place, fruits that looked like nothing from their world, and fish that shimmered in the light as if caught from a ghostly sea. Yet each dish was impossibly delicious, and they found themselves unable to stop eating, even as the flavors began to turn bitter, the textures unsettling. Lady Beatrice's fork wavered in her hand as she took a bite of something that tasted oddly metallic. She frowned, her vision blurring, and for a brief moment she thought she saw something move at the far end of the table, something dark and shadowy slipping in and out of sight. She blinked and the figure was gone. But she wasn't alone. One by one the guests began to feel the same unease. A senator sitting at the head of the table suddenly choked, gasping as he looked down at his plate, where the food now appeared rotten, crawling with small black insects that writhed and squirmed. He blinked and the food was normal again, a perfect cut of meat, juicy and tempting. "Is something wrong, Senator?" the Duke asked, his eyes glinting with amusement. No, it's nothing," the senator stammered, his hands trembling. As dessert arrived, a towering confection layered with delicate creams and sugar spun into gossamer webs, the unease grew into outright horror. A woman, one of the country's most famous opera singers, screamed as her fork broke through the delicate crust, revealing a writhing mass of blackened worms beneath. She tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't move, as though she were held in place by some unseen force. The Duke's voice cut through the room, calm and mocking. "Is the food not to your liking, my dear?" She looked up at him, her face pale and stricken. What is happening?" He smiled, a cruel glint in his eyes. "I promised a feast beyond your dreams, did I not? Surely you didn't think this would come without a price." The guests looked around, panic rising as they realized they were trapped. The door was gone, replaced by a wall of dark, glistening stone. The candelabras flickered, casting distorted shadows across the room, and a thick, choking smoke began to seep from the walls, filling their lungs with a strange, sickly sweet scent. One by one the guests began to change. Lady Beatrice felt her fingers elongate, the skin stretching and warping as her bones twisted. She screamed, dropping her fork as her hands turned into talon-like claws. Across from her, the senator's face contorted, his skin turning ashen, his mouth stretching into a grotesque, permanent grin. His eyes rolled back and he laughed, a hollow, lifeless sound that sent chills through everyone. Others fared no better. The opera singer's beautiful voice became a low, guttural wail as her face melted, her skin sagging as if drained of all life. One man found his hands glued to the table, his skin melding with the wood, his body sinking deeper and deeper into his chair until he became part of it, a twisted figure forever bound to his seat. As the transformation spread, the guests felt themselves slipping away, losing their humanity, their memories fading like smoke. They were becoming part of the manor itself, their souls trapped in an endless, nightmarish banquet that would never end. And the Duke? He watched with satisfaction, his face untouched by horror or pity. As each guest transformed, their essence seemed to flow into him, making him stronger, his eyes gleaming with a hunger that could never be sated. This was his ritual, his curse, his sustenance. The manor required souls and he was its keeper, forever bound to host this feast, luring the greedy, the ambitious, the curious, all those who would dare enter Blackthorn. As the last guest succumbed, the hall fell silent. The candles flickered and died, the room shrouded in darkness once more. Only the Duke remained, seated alone at the head of the table, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. The faces of the guests were now frozen in the walls, twisted in agony, their mouths open in silent screams, forever watching, forever trapped. In the morning the manor was quiet, standing tall against the misty hills, empty and waiting. A fresh set of invitations lay on the Duke's desk, ready to be sent out to the next group of unwitting souls who would attend the banquet of the damned, their lives and souls to be devoured in the endless, cursed feast of Blackthorn Manor.